Today's job is fitting a Fusebox to my leisure batteries so I can power all my little USBs and some lights and so on. The Fusebox is rated to 100 amps, but I'm not going to be using anything like that power in my budget van, so I've bought a fuse holder which is rated at 30 and some 25 amp fuses to go in it, and I've got some of Halford's 27 amp cable wire which will do the job to connect it all together. Luckily the fuse holder, if I fit my fuse box here, I've attached this piece of wood, it will be a long enough cable not to have any joins, so I've just got to put some connections on the end. That's the fuse box connected up. I've done some heat shrink on this one. I haven't bothered on a lot of them because I didn't have spare heat shrink, and as long as you do the connections properly it's not a problem. It does look a lot more professional. When I'm doing other people's vans I always use it. And the other side, I had some braided cable which I hadn't used, so I've used that for the earth as well. The battery a bit further that way, and I made a little cover to go over those terminals, and then I'm going to have a piece here that I'm going to put the USB sockets etc. into. Got a nice little setup here, and then I can box it all off after. There's my terminal cover with a very crude plus and minus on it to show which side's positive. I'm not Halford's biggest fan, but what they do, you can get 8 amp cable, lots of different colours, 27 amp, I think there's 5 amp, 17 amp, and you get lots of different colours, so you can have a different colour for each circuit. I tend to use black all the time for the earth, but all the positive circuits I'll try to use a different colour. It's easier to find if there's a fault in a circuit, which wire you need to check. And terminals, they do the terminals as well obviously. A pack of that, I don't know, it's about 10, I can't remember exactly. So connect up to our circuits on the fuse box. You touch one of these on the one end of your wire. Make sure your wire is of a higher ampage than what you're planning to use. So these, there, if you had both of those go in, you're looking at 4 amps, 5 amps. Always go higher, so I'm using 8 amp cable. Attach them with your ratchet crimper. It's not a ratchet one. And then your 2 terminals on the back, clearly marked, positive and negative. And that's an easy way to do a circuit. I've made out of an old bit of shelf. I'm going to have that on there attached. And it's going to be nice and easy to get to put my little sockets in. So I've got a cigarette lighter type socket, voltmeter, and the USBs. You can buy them in little packs off eBay, nice and cheap. I'll put a link in. And I've made myself some cables. As you can see, I haven't used heat shrink on them. I've just wrapped them up with insulation tape. I've used 3 black ones. I've done a red one, a blue one and a green one for each of those. So I've attached my power cables to the fuse box and routed them through my little shelf. Don't put the fuse in until everything's set up, because then otherwise you might blow your fuse sparking together. So I'm going to attach these now. Remember to thread the backs through to hold your USBs and all that tight. Then once that's done, I can pop the fuse in and we'll check they work. So that's the fuses in. The good thing about these is when the fuse blows as well, these fuse boxes, those light up to indicate if the fuse is blown. It's usually easier to find the problem. A little bit of tape around there just to keep it tidy and out of the way. Got a little reed in there, just about to see it. It's got 12.7 volts and my USB's lit up, and a little cigarette lighter socket. Put that in now. I'll show you this after as well. So that plugs in, and I can put my phone on charge as well. So with one of these you can double your number of USBs, or you can use a cigarette lighter if you get a flat tire or something. While I'm on the subject of this as well, these are a great little tool. You might have seen one of these before, I don't know, but basically you push it into your cigarette lighter. At the top shows the volts, similar to the volt gauge, and you've got the two USBs. Normally I keep it in there, the cigarette light socket. The good thing about it is it's a quick and easy way of checking or keeping an eye on, if you leave it in all the time, if your alternator's working, because when you plug it in you'll normally have about 12 volts showing, and once you start your engine up, if it goes up to 13 plus, you know, 13 to 14 volts, or if it goes up basically higher than what it was before, shows you your alternator's at least working a bit. If it's working properly you should be well into the 13s. So I'll add a link to one of these as well. I have one of these in every vehicle I own. Just keeps an eye on your charging circuit. You don't end up with a flat battery. Well, I think that's about the end of that one. They're all working. I can cover these up. Little shelf to put my phone on when I'm camping as well. I'll put the cover back on and it'll all be nice and tidy. Hope you'll join me for the next one.